toxicology? Yes, if you can get it to a single drug where it's acceptable. Yes.
Thank you. I pass the witness.
Sure.
Dr. Lindsay, so you claim that you've reviewed several things in this case file, correct?
No, I reviewed several things in the case file.
That's what I just said.
I think you said I claimed to
You
review.
claim to. I'm saying you said that you reviewed the toxicology reports, the detective investigation. You said
Yes.
the EMS.
That's
I guess
correct.
the reports.
Yes.
Have you been watching all the testimony this week?
I've been watching most of the testimony. I tried to watch most of it. Yes.
Okay. And you reviewed the bond hearing transcript, correct?
That's correct.
And the Pandora records and the medical examiner records, correct?
That's correct.
And so you heard Dr. Carney's testimony before this jury, is that right?
That's correct.
And you heard Dr. Kovalewski's testimony before this jury, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you also heard Dr. Mithen's testimony before this jury, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you were talking about the methamphetamine and the marijuana that came up in the assay test on the comforter. That's what you started out talking about. Do you remember that?
I remember it was mentioned, but that was one of the side tests that were done, or one of the results that came up, but it wasn't validated.
Correct. It wasn't validated because they can have false positives, correct?
I believe it wasn't valid. Well, yes, because of the iron ratios, they weren't correct.
And that's what Dr. Mithen testified to, is that it could be a false positive. It did not mean anything. She just noted it, correct?
That's correct.
And you would not report out something that is that low level, correct?
So there was a difference between the ion ratios being off and it being a low level. I don't believe she said that they didn't report it because of the low level. I can go back and check the testimony, or you can put it
It
up.
was the ion ratios were off. It was something that she couldn't report, correct?
Right, and they didn't run it again to see, because I think they were concentrating on the cocaine and the fentanyl. So, yeah, they only ran it that one time.
You would agree that Ms. Benning had multiple tests run and none of them tested positive for methamphetamine, correct?
Oh, correct, yes.
Okay, and none of them tested positive for marijuana either, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and also when she got to the hospital, she did not have alcohol in her system. That came back negative, correct?
No, you can't say that because the reporting threshold is 10 nanograms per mil. So as I discussed earlier, anything below that 10 nanograms per mil will be reported as a negative.
Okay, but
So we can only say that it was reported as a negative, that it was either negative or less than 10 nanograms per mil.
okay, so if the cocaine was dissolved in a very small amount of alcohol and put in her drink and she adjusted it that way,
Yes.
that would explain the cocaine that is apparently so incredibly important.
It would have to be a larger amount of ethanol, not just a little bit, in order to come up in the assays. So we're not talking like a teaspoon. I think somebody had said something crazy like vanilla before.
Well, you just said somebody said something crazy. That's interesting because you're saying that it came up in the comforter, the cocoethylene, correct?
In the vomitus, yes.
Okay, but Dr. Mithen's report specifically does not even have a numeric value. The response was so low.
Yet it's still persisting in other matrices a couple days later, so it just hadn't formed all the way probably.
It literally does not have a numeric value. That is how low it is.
Okay, but it's still persisting in other matrices days later, so we know that it was at a higher value then, even given its half-life.
Days later, when she's in the hospital receiving medication after medication after medication, trying to keep her alive on life support because she ingested liquid cocaine. Correct?
You don't know that.
Dr. Lindsay, you have heard
Excuse
three
me.
experts
You don't need to raise your voice.
testify.
Okay, have a seat, Ms. Collins. Just ask your question in a reasonable manner.
Dr. Lindsay, you have heard three experts testify that it was ingested and it had to be a liquid. It was in her drink.
Are you testifying? Because there's
Ma'am,
nothing.
Please don't interject yourself. Just keep yourself calm as well. You don't ask questions, okay?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
There is nothing.
Now, what is your question? You said three experts said X. What is your question?
You've heard the three experts testify that it was ingested orally, correct?
I've heard them testify that it could have been ingested orally.
Have you heard them testify that there was no evidence that it was ingested in any other manner?
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard that testimony?
I have not. If you point it out, I would be happy to look at it.
Okay, so you didn't hear Dr. Carney's testimony when she described her autopsy.
That wouldn't show you whether it was ingested orally or by any other manner.
Okay, and Dr. Lindsay, you went on and on about pharmacokinetics and calculating a dose. Did you provide your calculations?
Did I provide my calculations? No, but anybody can do them. If it's a half-life of 30 half-lives in between the first and the second dose, you would be up to billions of milligrams.
Okay, so you don't have any math that supports that at all for pharmacokinetics?
I did it at one time, but it was so off the chart, I knew that it was incorrect.
Oh, so you knew that you were incorrect?
No, I knew that the pharmacokinetics did not make sense.
Well,
So
did
anybody
it-
can take, the other experts didn't do the same calculations, and they could have, or they should have. They would have seen right away that it was not possible.
Well, you're saying it's not possible because you're refusing to acknowledge that it was ingested in liquid form, correct?
No, I'm not. I'm saying we don't know. It could have been ingested in liquid form, or it could have been used in another form. We just don't know.
Well, that's what you're saying, that you just don't know. But Dr. Carney was very positive when she did her autopsy report.
That-
So,
Wouldn't have shown, an autopsy report would not show whether someone had ingested it orally or ingested it through insufflation or injection. An autopsy would not show that.
Dr. Lindsay, are you a forensic pathologist?
No, I'm not a forensic pathologist, but I'm a toxicologist, and it would not show that. If you want to describe how it would show that, maybe that could enlighten me.
Dr. Lindsay, I am asking you the questions.
Okay, and I'm
Have you
correcting
ever
you.
performed an autopsy?
No,
Yes or no?
no.
Okay. Did you hear Dr. Krolewski's testimony where he said that he would not even attempt to calculate using pharmacokinetics to try to calculate the dose?
He doesn't do that regularly in his practice. He's more of an analytical chemist. It was clear by the way he answered the questions, and that's why he wouldn't do the pharmacokinetic calculations. That's more of a biochemistry type thing.
Dr. Lindsay, that was not Dr. Krolewski's answer. You do know that, correct?
I listened to his testimony, and that's how I knew he didn't do that. He didn't do it on a regular basis. He's more of an analytical chemist, toxicologist, than a strict toxicologist who does pharmacokinetic modeling. I think he was open about that.
Lindsay, I know that you do. So you're saying that you reviewed everything in the investigation file and the testimony at the bond hearing, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But you are here testifying that you think it's possible that Jade Benning was drinking 4 drinks out and doing cocaine. How was she doing it again?
We don't know.
Okay, but what did you use for your pharmacokinetics calculation?
So that's a little bit different. What I'm saying is